Hi guys, myself Sachin. I'm from SVCE Bangalore. So we'll discuss about directory implementation and free space management. Table of contents are: what are directories, directory implementation in OS, directory implementation using singly linked list, directory implementation using hash table, free space management in OS, free space management techniques and list, and the conclusion. So we'll see about what are directory. A directory is a unique type of file that contains only the information needed to access files or other directories. As a result, a directory occupies less space than other type of files. File system consists of group of directories and the file within the directories. A file system contains thousands and millions of files owned by several users. The directory structure organizes these files by keeping entire of all the related files. The file entires have information like file name, type, location, and the mode in which file can be accessed by other users in the system. So we'll see about directory implementation in operating system. So directory implementation in operating system can be done using singly linked list or hash table. The efficiency, reliability, and the performance of a file system are greatly affected by the selection of directory allocation and directory management algorithm. There are numerous ways in which directory can be implemented, but we need to choose an appropriate directory implementation algorithm that enhances performance of the system. So we'll see about directory implementation using singly linked list. The implementation of directories using singly linked list is easy to program, but it is time consuming to execute. Here we implement a directory by using a linear list of file names with pointers to the data block. Advantages of singly linked list are: it is very easier for the accessibility of a node in the forward direction. The insertion and deletion of a node are very easy. The requirement will require less memory when compared to double circular or double circular linked list. The singly linked list is very easy data structure to implement. During the execution, we can allocate or deallocate memory easily. Insertion or deletion of an element do not need to move of all the elements when compared to an array. The disadvantage of linked list are: the main disadvantage of using a linked list is that when the user needs to find a file, the user has to do a linear search. In today's world, directory information is used quite frequently, and linked list implementation results in slow access to a file. So the operating system maintains a cache to store the most recently used directory information. So we'll see about directory implementation using hash table. An alternative data structure that can be used for directory implementation is hash table. It overcomes the major drawback of directory implementation using a linked list. In this method, we use an hash table along with the linked list. Here, the linked list stores the directory entries, but a hash data structure is used in combination with the linked list. In the hash table, for each pair in the directory key value, pair is generated. The hash function of the file name determines the key, and this key points to the corresponding file stored in the directory. This method efficiently decreases the directory search time, as the entire list will not be searched on every operation. Using the key, the hash table entries are checked, and when the file is found, it is fetched. So we'll see about the advantages of using an hash table. The first one is fast lookup. Hashes provide fast lookup time for elements, often in constant time, because they use an hash function to map keys to array indices. This makes them ideal for applications that require quick access to data. The next one is efficient insertion and deletion. Hashes are efficient at inserting and deleting elements because they only need to update one array indices for each operation. The next one is space efficiency. Hashes use space efficiency because they only store the key value pairs and the array to hold them. This can be more efficient than other data structures such as tree, which require additional memory to store pointers. The next one is flexibility. Hashes can be used to store any type of data, including strings, numbers, and objects. They can also be used for wide variety of application, from the lookups to complex data structures such as database and caches. The next one is collision resolution. Hashes have built-in collision resolution mechanism in which cases where two or more key maps to the same array indices. Disadvantages. The major drawbacks of using the hash table is that generally it has fixed size and its dependency on size. But this method is usually faster than the linear search through an entire directory using a linked list. Free space management in OS. So free space management is a critical aspect of operating system as it involves managing the available storage space on the hard disk or other secondary storage devices. The operating system uses various techniques to manage free space and optimize the use of storage devices. So we'll see about free space management techniques. Here are some commonly used free space management techniques. The first one is linked allocation. In this technique, each file is represented by a linked list of disk blocks. When a file is created, the operating system finds enough free space on the disk and links the block of the file to form a chain. This method is simple to implement but can lead to fragmentation and waste of space. The second one is contiguous allocation. In this technique, each file is stored as a contiguous block of disk space. When a file is created, the operating system finds a contiguous block of free space and assigns it to the file. This method is efficient as it minimizes fragmentation but suffers from the problem of external fragmentation. The next one is indexed allocation. In this technique, a separate index block is used to store the address of all the disk blocks that make up a file. When a file is created, the operating system creates an index block and stores the addresses of all the blocks in the file. This method is efficient in terms of storage spaces and minimize fragmentation. The next one is file allocation table. In this technique, the operating system uses a file allocation table to keep track of a location of each file of the disk. When a file is created, the operating system updates the file allocation table with the address of the disk block that make up the file. This method is widely used in Microsoft Windows operating system. The next one is volume shadow copy. This is a technology used in Microsoft Windows operating system to create backup copies of a file. When a file is modified, the operating system creates a shadow copy of the file and stores it in a separate location. This method is used to data recovery and protection against the accidental file deletion. So we'll see about the advantages of free space management techniques in operating system. The first one is efficient use of storage space. Free space management techniques helps to optimize the use of storage space on the hard disk or other secondary storage devices. The next one is easy to implement. Some techniques such as linked allocations are simple to implement and require less overhead in terms of processing and memory resources. The next one is faster access to files. Techniques such as contiguous allocation can help to reduce disk fragmentation and improve accessing the files. So we'll see about the disadvantage of free space management techniques in operating system. The first one is fragmentation. Techniques such as linked allocation can lead to fragmentation of disk space, which can decrease the efficiency of storage devices. The next one is overhead. Some techniques such as indices allocation require additional overhead in terms of memory and processing resources to maintain index blocks. The next one is limited scalability. Some techniques such as FAT have limited scalability in terms of the number of files that can be stored on the disk. The next one is risk of data loss. In some cases, such as with contiguous allocation, if a file becomes corrupted or damaged, it may be difficult to recover the data. Overall, the choice of free space management technique depends on the specific requirement of the operating system and the storage devices which is used. While some techniques may offer advantages in terms of efficiency and speed, they may also have limitations and drawbacks that need to be taken. So we'll see about free space management using list. The system keeps tracks of the free disk blocks for allocating spaces to file when they are created. Also, to reuse the space released from deleting the files, free space management becomes crucial. The system maintains a free space list which keeps tracks of the disk blocks that are not allocated to some files or directories. The free space list can be implemented mainly as bitmap or bit vector. A bitmap or bit vector is a series of collection of bits where each bit corresponds to a disk block. The bit can be taken in two values, which is zeros and ones. The next one is linked list. In this approach, the free disk blocks are linked together. A free block contains a pointer to the next free block. The block number of the very first disk block is stored at a separate location on disk and is also known in cache in memory. The next one is grouping. This approach stores the address of the free block in the first free block. The first free block contains some of the address, say n free block. Out of these n blocks, the first n-1 blocks are actually free, and the last block contains the address of the next free n blocks. An advantage of this approach is that addresses of the group of free disk blocks can be found easily. Conclusion. Directory implementation in OS involves in creating algorithm and data structures to manage and manipulate directories. In a file system, multiple users create thousands or millions of files. The directory structure is used by the file system to correctly organize these files. A directory can be thought of as a list of connected files on a hard drive. The operating system manages the free space in the hard disk. This is known as free space management in operating system. The operating system maintains a free space list to keep track on the free disk space. The free space list consists of all free disk blocks that are not allocated to any file or directories. Thank you.